What's up, everybody? That was A Tribe Called Quest, The Killing Season. Everybody, we are smack dab on the top of the 4 o'clock hour here at KRFF 95.9 LPFM. Moorhead, Fargo. 701-478-4959 is the number to call into the studio if you have any questions or requests, which I'll pretend to play, I guess. And anyway, we're going to get right into the music here. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson is the hour you've got yourself strapped into, and there's a whole lot more we'll talk about on the other side of this break here. And that was Prince with Bat Dance, and ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act is the measure that we are pushing and circulating, and we have a bunch of places that are currently holding the petition in Fargo here. And then there's a My Petition locator on ndforfreedom.com, and that can get you closer to home and to where you are. And if nobody is where you are, maybe you can become that person. ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act, again, is 21 plus to have it on you. Home grow up to 12 plants, private possession and private consumption. All cannabis businesses require licenses. Tochi Products, which I might add directly after this, from 5 to 6, we have our weekly meeting. Again, it's a way to catch up, see where you're needed. And in this case, you're needed at the meeting from 5 to 6. And then we can give you your marching orders from there, but we would really like to see you if you'd like to get involved, and the time is now. Addictions, 46 and 2 Tattoo, Smokey's House of Pipe, Mellow Mood, Orange Records, and Bee's Nest Tattoo and Novelty Store. I don't know why I always struggle with that.
Art studio.
It's
an art studio, yep.
Yeah, it's a great place. And anyway, that's what's going on. The mall isn't happening this week. It's next week, right?
It is February 14th. We're going to be there.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Man, yeah. The day, yeah, bring your sweetheart on over. Get her buy a wristband for nothing.
Yep.
And sign and support personal freedoms and the legalization of cannabis, which Lisa and I are all whole hog in, and we're not looking back, and we don't think anybody else should either. And there's just two. I mean, type in cannabis legalization in your world, and it's interesting to see what you'll hear back. You know, because even now I was reading Italy. It's now part of like, oh, what is it? It's like a medical, like you can get it. Oh, it's covered under your insurance. You know, so if you have like a medical thing, they'll cover it.
We need to get to that place.
Yeah. And apparently they've had medical legalization in Italy for a while, and this is just kind of like a next step where they were just putting more value to it for the person, and then they're allowing, I feel like it's like you can apply to not have to pay anything if you can't. Like it's kind of like we want to help you have it, which is the first time I've heard or seen any of that kind of movement where it's like, we've got it, we like it, now let's help everybody get it. You know, so that was exciting, I thought. But anyway, that's the thing. Here's the thing that's in Lisa and I's craw right now. House Bill 4001 is this new little cockamamie bill that was created by, the politicians, the legislators. And like her and I was saying, they must have sat around going, how can we keep the people from rising up? Like, I don't understand, because there was a discontent. They were like, well, these guys are starting to utilize this power. They're getting signatures, and then they're changing things the way they want, not necessarily the way we want. And so, that preempted this House Bill 4001, which basically says, if you want change and you go out and get the signatures for whatever reason and people sign and you can get it on the ballot by normal, a people's driven initiative, they'll get to decide. After all that work, you put all that boots on the ground, they'll decide. And then they'll vote. And then if they vote like all your work was for naught because they've decided the higher road, it's all for naught. Then we're done.
Right. Basically, they don't have to put in place a measure that you've collected signatures for and got a positive vote for if they don't want to. They can be like, we don't want this to go through. And then they can actually force it to vote all over again on it, which, really puts groups of citizens, grassroots movements like ours, at a high disadvantage because there's expense involved. There's people's labor involved in promoting get out the vote and everything else. And
right.
Basically, I think they know better than the citizens. If the citizens have voted yes on something, they need to be allowed to have it.
Right, because this is a free world, and who do we, because again, people voted them in to make decisions with us in mind, and when you take that away from us, it just feels, it doesn't feel very empowering. And I almost feel like that's what they don't want, like this empowering of the people, which does seem to becoming a little more popular in the past few years, for sure.
And what I think we all need to do is find our district reps and ask them their opinions on HB 4001, and especially if, when they're running for things, we should start asking these questions. And I think as a group, Cannabis Caucus Fargo, we're going to kind of get on that. We're going to start talking to some of these people and asking them how they feel about this and about our measure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to go ahead and play a song quick, and then we'll come back, and then we'll talk about a few more things. And then I was going to say we have Leslie calling in at 420. She's the head of Committee for Compassionate Care, which she's been on Facebook for a while. Her directive is more medically kind of driven, cards, how to get them, what's keeping you from getting them. And then we'll find out what got her, started in this whole thing anyway, because I think I remember during Measure 3, but I think that was before I got involved. Like before, that was the medical one, like the 2000, I want to say 14, but I'm not sure, so I kind of like to, get that from her. And then we'll see how much time we have left, but directly after this, again, will be at Tochi Products 5 to 6. And I'm going to go ahead and play a song here, and then stay tuned. 420 is when we're going to get full-blown into this, and like I said, Leslie will be in this. All right, D. White doing Wherever You Go off his Southern Gentleman, and to follow up with the Cleverleys, which I've really been kind of getting into them, doing their version of the Milkshakes. And ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act is the measure we're pushing, but we're pushing adult legalization for everybody that can, and in any state in the whole world. And we've got somebody on hold here, like I said, that's going to kind of just, if you're interested on how you would get a card or, reasons that are keeping people from the card, then she's going to be able to help you with that. And so we're going to, again, I'm going to play the intro song, and we will get started here. We'll see you on the other side of this. We are here, everybody. And again, ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson is what we're doing. And we've got a caller here, and we'll go ahead and take care of it. Leslie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing, Greg?
Oh, I'm great.
Hi,
And,
Leslie.
Yep, Lisa's here
Hi,
too.
Lisa.
Sounds good. So you're calling from Carrington, or am I wrong?
Yes, I am. I'm calling from Carrington, North Dakota.
Is it snowing there?
No, not right now.
Hell,
It was a little bit earlier.
yeah,
It stopped.
well, it's not stopping here. But anyway, tell us a little about yourself. How did you get involved in the cannabis legalization thing?
Well, I got involved shortly after Measure 3 had failed, and so we started a PAC, a Committee for Compassionate Care, and that was established in November of 18, and we were at the Capitol during session last year.
Yep.
For most of the time fighting for patient reforms.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, and I believe that's the first time that the Capitol had some sort of outside, I don't know, like attendees, not lobbying, but the first time they had people in session that was concerned about, cannabis medically and whatnot, right? Like, I don't think that's ever happened before, has it?
I don't believe it has. Measure 5 probably had some people up there during, fighting for it. And I'm not exactly sure who they did, but, Measure 5 did pass, and it was rewritten, as everybody knows that by now.
That's why you had to go back and lobby to get back what you wanted in the first place.
And lobby. And we did have the actual first few cannabis lobbyists registered in the state of North Dakota.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's what I kind of want to push home, because it was voted in, People's Driven Initiative. It was a statutory measure. Then, if we remember, medical or the power that be gutted the thing, spit it back out not like what we had put in. And then we've been fighting to get that back to where we voted for it in the first place. So it's been a struggle because of the statutory measure, because it was a people-driven, non-constitutional measure. It got manipulated and changed to where we had to go back and fight more to get it to where we voted it for in the first place. So our measure now, Indy for Freedom of Cannabis Act, I mean, it's just a umbrella for everybody that needs it because, again, it'll be a constitutional right, and they'll have to respect your wishes. And I think that's what we haven't gotten yet, is to be able to be respected when we discuss cannabis and its benefits. And because I'm guessing that brings me to a kind of a reason why people can't get cards, right? Because doctors aren't on board, and there's all this kind of hemming and hawing happening, right?
Yes, and a lot of doctors use the excuse that it's federally illegal. Some doctors, the corporate doctors, are not certifying patients as well. I don't think they're as educated on the law as what they need to be. They still think they have to prescribe it. There are the considerations for the program is the price of the medicine is out of reach for patients. Doctors aren't educated on the law. People are afraid of losing their jobs and their children as well. And going to a private doctor, again, is out of reach.
So that's the avenue.
People.
Gotcha. So,
and also, we want our Second Amendment rights protected as well.
For sure.
Yay to that.
Yeah, two yays to that. And so basically, there's private doctors for money that will get you a card. But if you want to go, see, I remember being, I guess, a poor kid back in the day. My mom would go and say, like, to the doctor, do you have any samples of medicine, right? Because they couldn't afford whatever one of us kids needed. And I remember doctors having samples that were free, they couldn't charge, and they would just give to my mom because the well-being and the health of her kids was important to the doctor and my mom, you know? And I feel like nowadays those doctors aren't motivated to help. Like, they don't see it as being a thing they should suggest because they've kind of got caught into this kind of this pharmaceutical rat race that everything they're that they're prescribing, that they're prescribing based on the guy with the suitcase that came in and did his little look at this, look at that, as opposed to look at my kid or my adult or me and what do I need that might make me better and more healthy and a well-rounded quality of life. And to me, that's where things are getting a little goofy because they're not looking at what could help. And there's so much, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of research and evidence now that's coming out for its health benefits, you know, so it's less of a witch hunt, I think, now. So hopefully this constitutional measure will pass. We'll have, constitutional protection, and then we'll have the ultimate say. Then once I suppose the doctors will get relieved, and they'll get more information. But sadly, I feel like we're racing against the big guys coming up with a way they can make money out of it. We're racing against like the humane way and cannabis for all, or we have it all, like with the stinking insulin. I mean, that's ridiculous. And last week when I went to Mexico, man, I mean, I was getting antibiotics for like $3,
Yes.
So something was wrong.
Something's fishy, for sure.
Absolutely. So how many cards has been issued in the state of North Dakota?
As of today, we have 2,139 out of the 75,000 estimated patients in North Dakota, which again is a huge discrepancy in who needs it and who's getting it and who can afford it. And it all ties into the doctors and the state regulations and the low amount of qualifying conditions we have. We have 2 grow facilities, state legal grow facilities, and they're very limited growth. So even with that 2,100 patients, we are still running out of medication for people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming across a lot of people, especially when we're out in the mall petitioning, who have some very serious conditions that are telling us that they can't get it. Either they can't get it or they can't get it in the form they want it, or it's too expensive.
Yes.
So there seem to be some things that need to be worked out with it, don't there?
Well, right.
Yeah.
Right. And smoking's bad for you, so they're finding like edibles and, to be able to eat or just administer it almost under the tongue is the healthier way to take it, because when you're
Right.
smoking it, well, you're smoking it, and that's obviously not the best way to ingest it. So it's kind of funny how backwards that they're looking at it, because they're like, well, there can be more THC in that, easy to take for that poor guy. It's less like adolescent fun time. That's what I think I need people to understand, especially in the medical community that are making it hard for people to get this particular thing. It's less about partying and more about the best route of ingesting it for whatever ails you, and not burning, a carcinogenic
and
thing.
The whole edibles thing is, we have patients with big disabilities. Children, they can't smoke it.
No.
Right.
Alzheimer's patients, they don't have enough brain power to do that. I mean,
Right.
They would much rather eat a cookie
Yeah.
than put a cigarette in their mouth.
Absolutely. Or
So-
just keep on track of all that stuff now that I think about it.
We have also not Alzheimer's, autism children and children with seizures and grown adults that could benefit from this, but smoking it is not the way they should do it. So there should be a bigger variety of product. And here's another thing that I've been hearing lately is that dispensary staff is not very knowledgeable about the products they're selling. I just looked on the herbology website about a job, and there's really no training involved at all. You have to know how to use a point-of-sale machine and have good customer relations, have a passion for cannabis.
Oh.
That's really about it.
Well, that's funny, Leslie, when you think about it, too, because when you think about looking for people, like in my head, like if I had a grow, or if I had the dispensary, I'm looking for workers in a state where it's still, I don't know, illegal to consume, and you ask, I need somebody knowledgeable in cannabis. I mean, you're kind of asking them, like, we need somebody that's actively smoking it, to help us
Right.
help people. So that's the other thing. I mean, you can't really, until it's legalized, it's still weird. And so the people that need it are still getting weird service because they really need somebody that knows what they're talking about. But where are
That
those
knows
people?
what they're talking about. Exactly. And how do I put this? I just feel like, as a new person that would be going into the program, has no cannabis experience in the past, they don't know anything, and they look to those bud tenders to help them.
Ideally,
and with no
wouldn't
education,
ideally
there's no
wouldn't
help.
ideally wouldn't they have a cannabis nurse in there?
Yes.
One on
Yes.
staff who could consult with the rest of the staff and
or consult with the patient.
and the patients, yes, but I mean,
Yes.
train them and get them up on it so that they know what they're doing. I can't imagine that they wouldn't need to know a little bit more than what you're describing.
They might have a basic, informational thing. Maybe they have to fill out some kind of form to show their cannabis knowledge. But as far as the job description goes, it doesn't say anything about a degree in chemistry or cannabis growing, or not growing, but cannabis. It doesn't have anything about education on there.
Well, the
Which I
application,
thought was
yeah.
kind of weird to read
really
that.
weird.
I mean, I just looked that up today, and I hope I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I just have bad information.
Well,
But
I
let's
mean,
hope-
I'd like to say that too, but from what I've seen and you being, seeing firsthand, experience and knowledge with this thing, it makes perfect sense to me, because the only people that would know are people in legal states, or you're not asking the right questions. Like, are they asking me to Google, application of cannabis? Do I learn the endocannabinoid system? Am I learning about full spectrums? Am I, what are you asking
the
me to know?
terpenes, all of the stuff. What's good for this condition and what's bad for this condition. I mean, I've actually heard that sometimes cannabis is not good for certain kinds of cancers. But I mean, I just read an article about it, but I don't know. Someone could say, no, don't try this. Try this. This is better for your condition.
Right, and some
And
people going in
here's-
there probably have never tried cannabis,
No.
so they
No.
really want that help.
Yes.
So
And
also,
they need that help.
I wanted to ask you, Leslie, about Is there a problem with having like an educational campaign for this or an advertising campaign? Because I'm not seeing anything, and I noticed a while back that you had, I think it was you that mentioned that the governor devoted $0 to the medical program in the budget.
He did.
So that's probably a part of the problem it's not getting implemented.
They want the program to be self-sustaining.
Sure.
And, I don't know how self-sustaining it is with only 2,000 patients in it. I do know that the dispensaries and the grow facilities have to pay permitting fees and all that, but at some point they need to kick down some money to have maybe a doctor's conference or a nursing conference or something.
And
or an educational program for the bud tenders.
Yeah, and for the public as well. Because if there are people with conditions that don't know that it could help them, they need to know about it.
Yeah.
And I believe the conditions list needs to expand too.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just need to knock that stinking stigma down, and each state that's legalizing it, Canada, like even, Israel is doing studies, and thank God, because without research in states that are legal, I mean, I don't know where we would be, because knowledge is power, and, to know something but not be able to say something because you don't want to be discriminated or incriminated against, people just aren't really willing, to kind of step out and say what they know and what they don't know until it's stinking made legal across the board, which people don't understand when they say recreational. It's not really what we mean. We just mean to have access.
Adult use.
To have access as an adult to figure out what works for you, because I would argue that it'll work for everybody in some capacity. Even just like the topicals or lotions, people just don't understand. Like my dad, he now... Well, from Vietnam, late in his life, they gave him, I think it was like 50% disability for PTSD, which is crazy that, that you would have it this long, and it kind of saddens me. But, they've got him on, like trazodone. And I'm thinking, oof. I'm like, oof, that, what? To me, that sounds like a very sharp and harsh, because before he was using like Benadryl and, that sort of stuff. And it's like, well, man, I got to believe cannabis in an ingestible capsule has to be better than stinking trazodone when it comes to sleeping, because that's his problem. He has a hard time, not being disturbed with his brain throughout his sleeping pattern. And it's just crazy that in my head, trazodone is the option that they're recommending when there's cannabis available. So the quicker we can get people.
He's a veteran as well.
Yeah. So,
see, those veterans get the shaft.
And that's so sad, because they need it the most.
It is. Yes, I agree. And, if he strictly goes through the VA, he'll never get a medical cannabis card as long as it's federally illegal.
Right.
So...
Well, hopefully, federally, I'd even be willing if they went federal and just made it medically available in the whole U.S., and then let like states decide recreational or whatever. Because then when it's that available, then the cost would go down. They would come up with a plan to where, we all could get it. We all could benefit, because that's part of the problem is the medical process. It's kind of, I don't know, I don't like it. You feel less of a person. You got to do all these tests. And in my case, for like ADHD or anxiety, they're going to make me run through all those pharmaceutical drugs before, because that's what they'll suggest before I know what it'd work, so I'm not going through all that. And then that, the relationship I got to create.
And it does come down to patients want control over their health care.
Right.
Everybody wants that. And if you're doctor saying, no, you can't do this, but take a trazodone, what the heck?
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's insanity.
I mean, something that grows naturally, and then something else. I mean, like trazodone's notoriously, funky. I mean, it's a gnarly type, mental kind of whatever it's for, because I know working in the group homes 18 years, them stinking trazodones and like Depakote, they were all through like group homes and stuff, and it certainly wasn't to increase their quality of life. I feel it was more like stopping the impulsive outbursts or whatever. So it never felt
sedating
good.
You kind of.
Yeah, it never really felt good, like your best life was being had when you took those sort of things. And then like at the mall when we see like our friend that comes in, I mean, she's like 80-some years old.
Yep.
She's vibrant. She's happy to be at the mall. She used to not be able to get to the mall because the pills she was taking just debilitated her. It was too hard to get up, blah, 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 blah. So she started, and I think she was like one of the first, 50 cards that were administered. And it's a breath of fresh air for me to see her and for her to be out to see me.
Yep.
You know?
She only uses cannabis for her conditions, and she is doing better than ever.
See, and I mean, that brings tears to my eyes, really. That is just, it's incredible.
Right,
and it's hard to believe that our lawmakers and our healthcare providers are denying people that.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a basic human right to me.
Right, yeah. So then I'm like, well, why? Why isn't it? I mean, if I tell you, listen, this helps night terrors and our PTSD vets that come back from, fighting. It helps them. They say it does. And then what? Why don't we just go, okay? Because we give them all this stuff, like, let's just buy the magnets. Let's give the vets lip service and say thank you for our service. But don't ask for something that's going to help you, because we're not going to do that. It's just, it drives me crazy that the lawmakers are dragging their feet on this thing, because it should just be immediate. Boom. As quickly as they pulled the flavored vapes off the shelves in all the U.S., they should make stinking PTSD victims immediately accessible and easy to have, because we do care about their service. We do thank them for their service. And so here, sleep better, buddy.
Here, I'm sorry we did this to you. Let's try and make it better. I feel like that's a whole nother story, but
right.
You know what I mean? It's just, and I heard you mention sleeping. It helps your dad sleep. Or that's his issue. Yeah, that's his issue, and so he's always taken something. Issue. Well, as a Vietnam vet, and he did he's choosing a Christian path, like in '76. So he used drugs and he lumps them all together, he still calls it dope, So for me to even, I like tongue in cheek mentioned it to him because I told him, well, it helps me, even CBD, and he was, to him, he can't get past that thought, so he's not going to hear it from me. But it was drilled into him his whole life that it was bad for him. Right. I'm sure. Oh, absolutely. How long has prohibition been going on? 80 years? Something like that?
Yep. We've been lied to for a long time.
A long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I sure am, looking forward to a brighter day when it comes, especially for like our troops and to make it easier for them. I mean, and outside of that, it just benefits a lot of us. A lot of us could benefit. But again, for the two things that I have, I mean, I can't afford the hoopla, I mean, I can't go through it. And I got a buddy I talked to today. He's like, my neurologist, because he has petit mal seizures and a variety of things. And, if he went ahead and got on the, because it costs like $50, like the application. But then, and since he's on Medicaid or like state-funded care that he can't afford, like the dispensary, like he couldn't afford it. It'd be $300, to get, like you said, kind of poor product list. And then $300 maybe will get you in the door and with something, but not much. Right. I mean, I hear patients tell me it's baseline $800. And mostly it's, $1,200 to $1,500 a month in medication. Lord. Well, see, and so like I said, and if you're disabled, I mean, you still have car insurance and a house payment, and you got to pay your electric bill and whatever you need, buy food to eat. For sure. And people can't afford. I mean, it's just sickening how the infirm are treated. To me, it just gives me this. Now, let me mention this real quick about the veterans. Go ahead. There is a way for veterans to get a card through the state, and what they do is they get their records from the VA, their medical records, and they directly submit those to the state. And the state, if one of the qualifying conditions is on your medical records, you will get a card.
Well, that's good.
The the vet, I mean, they still pay the $50 card fee. They still have to buy their stuff at the dispensary. But at least it kind of takes the VA out of the loop for them.
Okay, Leslie, say that again then. So if you are a vet, you can do what now?
You can get your medical records from the VA.
Okay.
And then you submit them on your own to the state. So there's no doctor certified.
Gotcha. You just go to the VA, say, I'd like my medical records. You don't have to say why. They give them to you. You take it somewhere else.
Yes. Well, you send it directly to the Medical Marijuana Division in North Dakota.
Gotcha.
And,
with that Jason guy.
Yeah. So that, I'm not sure if all vets are aware of that. But
No.
I would really like to get that word out.
No,
Yes.
me too. And so that's the thing. So if you're a vet, you request your medical record, just say, hey, I want them. They give them to you. You send them to the North Dakota Medical Marijuana Association or whatever, Jason Wall, and,
Yes.
and then you pay like the fee, but you just go through them and they'll send you your medical card if you have one
Yes.
of the conditions on the medical
If
list.
you have one of the conditions on the card, on your medical record.
Right, and which thanks to you guys, like I said, the list got, like migraines got put on there, anxiety got put on there, and, just migraines alone, like my daughter will get them every once in a while, sadly not very often, because they are horrible, and
Yes.
and anything that can possibly help. Again, we've got this thing backwards. I mean, poor people shouldn't get, the shaft, like you said, and the vet
Right.
shouldn't get the shaft. You shouldn't have to be rich to have, fresh greens
To get
and a
the
medical
treatment
card.
that you desire. Exactly.
Absolutely.
People want control again. I want control over my own health care. I'm
Yep.
sure you do, Greg, and
I
you,
do.
Lisa. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't want control over that. And sometimes when you're very sick, you go to the doctor and you're scared as heck. You are really scared.
Yeah.
And you listen because you turn to the doctor as a professional, but then you go home and you do some research and you think, well, shoot, if I take this tincture, that might help me. Why can't I get that? And why can't we use it in conjunction with the Western medicine?
Right. Why is there such such a big head in the sand when it comes to this extra thing, like to add to your arsenal, to pick,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
It's been demonized way too long. And at the end of the day, I agree with you. There's some sort of weird for-profit construct in our society, prisons for profit, Medicaid's got some sort of weird money thing in there, I'm sure. Anything that...
Pharmaceutical companies are pushing their medications that they have patents on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It's just...
And they would rather create a synthetic version, a dangerous synthetic version of cannabis.
yes. And they have.
Instead, I know.
Yeah, it stinks.
Yeah,
I heard.
Marinol, right?
Yeah, I heard Marinol stinks.
Sounds like pure garbage.
Which reminds me, I've been reading about paraquat lately. Because I remember back as a kid, it would be like it was something the government was spraying on like the cannabis crops. And then if you ingested too much, that paraquat, then you got like some sort of weird infection. And like if you type in like in the 80s, paraquat was a big deal because
weird.
Yeah, basically it was the first K2 ever existed, and it was created by the government because you start inhaling those weird insecticides.
Ugh,
That's when...
that's not good for you.
No. But listen, Leslie, we've made it to the end of this thing, and this has been really fun. What do you think?
Okay. It's been great.
Right. So
I
is
can't
there...
believe we're already to the end.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Anything else you want to tell the good people of the airwaves before I let you go?
Be sure to sign the petition, and let's get this constitutionally protected.
Yes.
Absolutely. So ND for Freedom, a Cannabis Act, is the petition in which she mentions. You can go to ndforfreedom.com. There's a My Petition locator. Plug in the information, and it will tell you where you can go and sign. And again, this is more about, it's about personal freedom, but it's about protecting our rights to consume and possess adult use cannabis in the state of North Dakota, because we're no better than Illinois. We're no better than Michigan. We're no better than Canada. We're all humans. We're all the same. We all need the same thing. So let's stop playing around and let's get the people the help that they need. And I guarantee you,